bought these. I hope he likes them. Probably gonna experiment and put some rum in it. Why are his shoes on the table?
Hard kombucha.
Hard kombucha.
Okay. You come bearing gifts.
I come bearing gifts. June shine.
I love it.
Midnight painkiller. But despite the name,
Yeah.
it is actually super healthy for you.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
See, that's good because I'm trying to get healthy.
You know what? That is one thing that turned me, like the nutritionist at the Pirates. She was like, oh, you got to try kombucha because it's got probiotics and all this healthy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think regular kombucha has a little bit of like alcohol in it naturally.
Okay.
So they just ferment it for a longer period for hard kombucha. So it's still got the probiotics. You can have a couple, get a little buzz, and you won't be hungover. That's the best part about it.
You won't be hungover.
You won't be hungover, and it's healthy for you.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, all right, so right now, just so you know, our family, my wife's got everybody on this gluten-free kick, right? Which I'm starting to like realize is a good kick to be on because I've been feeling better. I could tell, and definitely because whatever gluten is, I don't even know what it is. It's like this magic thing, right? That apparently is in everything. But she tells me it's like wheat or something like that. I don't really know. But I don't know. Are you like into the healthy thing?
I listen to certain people about the nutritional advice.
Mm-hmm.
I think some people are sensitive to gluten naturally,
Mm-hmm.
but it's all about the gut, right? So it's digestion. Right. And this is what will help you also because the probiotics in here help your gut. And it's like the healthy bacteria that help everything like just go through the system.
Okay.
To put it in hindsight. So.
And then I might be able to put rum on top of this, right?
We're going to experiment and try that out.
All right. So,
shall we?
Welcome to the show. Yes,
Thank
let's
you.
go. Crack and cheers, right? Here.
Oh, so exciting.
And cheers. Thank you for driving up from the Keys to see me, right? I know we've been trying to get this show together for quite a while now, and I'm happy that you're here in front of me.
I'm super excited,
right?
and I think I'm more excited for you to try this now.
All right, so we'll try it. So, all right, let me try it like this. I like that.
It's pretty smooth, right?
Yeah, I like that. It's good.
Yep.
It's very good. Let's try it with rum. Sorry. So, we're here today with Astrid DeGruchy, right? And she joins us on the Connected by Water podcast, presented by Joey Cardi Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, and fueled by Papa's Pilar Rum. And in the words of George Pavaromo, if he's watching this show, is probably going to be laughing right now. I always have the toughest time opening these bottles. You know, one time he brought in a bottle, like George Pavaromo comes on the show all the time. He's like a show regular. And the last time he was on, he brought a bottle and with instructions on it for me on how to open it. So, should I not be doing this?
You got it down
We're
pat
going to
now,
try.
Dennis.
Right?
Let's try. Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'll live. I'll live. All right, not bad. Not bad. Not bad. You know what it does, though? It takes a little bit of the carbonation out.
Okay.
So, all right. We're here. We're talking to you. We're hanging out. I want to, before we get started, I know some of you guys listen to us on our radio formats, or radio.com and iHeartRadio and Spotify and all that stuff like that, but most of you guys watch us on YouTube. And if you're watching us for the first time, please click that like button. We'd love to have you subscribe to the show, and we appreciate it when and if you do. So, hi.
Hi.
So you're a very interesting character. Right?
I think I have a very interesting background.
Yeah, you got a good story to tell, and I wanted you to come on and tell that story. When I posted we have our Strange Questions segment, which we'll get to in a little bit, where I asked people, send in your strange questions to ask you, right? And I said, this is Astrid. She's coming on the show, and not only does she catch a lot of fish, but she's also a Harvard-educated Major League Baseball scout, right? Yeah. I don't know if they properly introduced that. Is that? So I said, So give us your questions and everything like that. So I want to go way back, but first I want to ask with the baseball thing, how did you get into that?
So I pretty much grew up around baseball.
Okay.
And it wasn't until after I finished undergrad at St. John's that I thought I had a shot in working in baseball full time. And I wanted to be a film director when I was at St. John's.
Really?
Yep. But I've been always been around baseball. You know, growing up with my brothers playing travel ball, and I played some softball. But just being around the game, I just fell in love with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew a lot about it going to my brother's lessons, and I just wanted him to be better. So I kind of helped with the development of everything that he did. And when I was in undergrad, I went to some showcases and I talked to some scouts, and they're like, you know a lot about baseball. Did you ever consider going to scout school? I'm like, what is scout school? People get paid to watch baseball?
Wow, really?
Yeah. So I got sent to scout school. I was sponsored by Major League Baseball to do it. It was a 2 week long, very intense, learning how to write scouting reports, learning to see like what to look for. And the greatest thing about it, I was around people that wanted to be like scouts as well, people that loved baseball. And I was like, this is actually what I want to do. And that's when everything just kind of spiraled. And I did an internship with the Cape Cod Baseball League. That was my first internship. And then I started just getting internships and stuff like that with other organizations. And I got a full time position with the Pittsburgh Pirates in international scouting.
So that's where you're working now.
That's where
you
I
work for the
now.
Pirates.
Correct.
So cool. So really though, I mean, I didn't know that there was a scouting school.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just thought like the scout thing was just kind of like, hey, this person knows baseball. It's like the movies, right?
Yeah. No,
Yeah, but I didn't realize it was
no.
such a regimented kind of thing.
Yeah, they actually started it way back in like I think the 80s, but a lot of the former players turned into scouts because they were around baseball. But this is more of a formulated process of like how to write a scouting, how to compile a scouting report and what to look for, and it definitely helped a lot.
Yeah, cool. And you do a lot of traveling.
I mean,
Well, you're doing the
prior
international
to
thing, right?
yes, prior to COVID, I would probably be in the Dominican for 2 weeks every month.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot, but that's where I mostly am is the Dominican Republic.
Okay.
A lot of players are there.
Yeah, I always thought that was fascinating. So I mean, growing up, I was a Mets fan because I was born and raised down here, and my family were Mets fans because they're all from New Jersey, right? So they come down and they're Met fans, and so when I got the Marlins, I finally got my team, so I instantly became a Marlin fan. But in '86, when the Mets won the World Series, I was like, hey, you know what I mean? It was great. But you're from Long Island, right?
From Long Island,
So
yeah.
what did you grow a fan of?
So my dad.
Are you not allowed to talk about it now that
No, I can.
you're with Pittsburgh?
My dad was a Mets fan, and he
Okay.
still is loyal. You know, they're very, very loyal.
Mm-hmm.
But I grew up liking the Red Sox.
Really?
Yep, specifically because of Ted Williams.
Mm-hmm.
I started researching his background, and I just fell in love with the person he was on and off the field.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't do things for publicity. He didn't go to help the children at the hospital just because it would be in the press. Was he a perfect husband? Was he a perfect father? No. But at the end of the day, he was a perfectionist, and he loved not only baseball and being the best hitter of the greatest hitters ever played, but also a really spectacular fisherman.
Yeah, right there at Bud and Mary's, where
Yep,
you're
correct.
fishing at a Bud and Mary's
Yeah,
now, right?
basically,
I mean,
yeah.
you basically live there now, right? You just let the cat out of the bag. I did.
Yeah, no,
I
go
did.
ahead.
I did. Sorry. So anyway, so you're now a resident of Islamorada. So that's kind of, if you like love Ted Williams like that, I mean, it's got to be kind of cool fishing at a Bud and Mary's, 'cause that really was like, I mean, what his stomping grounds down there.
Yeah, no, he's got a lot of history there. I know he had a second home there, but he just loved Bud and Mary's, and my boyfriend tells me it all the time. He's like, this is where Ted Williams loved to fish out of. I'm like, that's correct.
Yeah, that's cool. So, I mean, you've been fishing like your whole life, right? So, so you're kind of like mixing like two of your passions here with like baseball and fishing, like
Correct.
the way you're kind of rolling out.
So, funny story, and I guess I'll trace back to where I was born. I was born in Lima, Peru. My mom was a single mom with 2 kids. and she moved us to New York, and she wanted a better opportunity for us
Mm-hmm.
because down in it's not like here. So she wanted a better opportunity for us, so we moved to Queens and lived in a really small studio apartment.
Like Coming to America.
Yes, it literally it was, and she used to have to work 60 hours a week just to make ends meet.
Mm-hmm.
And we would really never see her. And then I think when I was about 8 years old, she met my stepdad, who was a plumber in New York City. And she didn't really speak a lot of English,
Mm-hmm.
but they met, and I guess they hit it off, and he is my best friend. He took me in and not only introduced me to baseball, but also fishing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
that's
I think
cool.
that's really cool that he showed me both those things, and I'm still pursuing both of them.
So where were you fishing? You were like a Montauk
So
kind of
my
thing?
dad had a Grady White sailfish that he kept out of Greenport
Okay.
in the North Shore. So it was mostly like fluke and stripers out of like Gardner's Bay, Gardner's area over
Mm-hmm.
there. And then he used to take us to what's called the race by like Little Gull Island,
Mm-hmm.
where the current just rips. And I remember we used to be out like all day, and then he's like, "All right, striped bass fishing at night. Let's tell your mom that you're going to bed." And we wake up at 1 in the morning, get ready for the night striper bite.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I caught my first striped bass, I was 8 years old, and it was like barely a keeper, like 28 inches.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember fighting so hard, and I was like, I can't do it. He's like, you're gonna do it, and you're gonna like see this through. And I did. I remember when I brought it in, it was just a sense of like, wow, this is the greatest feeling ever. Like going through that much at that young age,
Mm-hmm.
like not feeling he could do it and doing it. I think that's what sparked like I want to continue fishing for the rest of my life.
That's great.
Hmm.
I know a lot of times, like all the prep that goes into, fishing a lot of times, and that's why when you have days like the day we were talking about before that we started rolling, like the day we just had in the tournament, when like you don't really catch a lot of fish or anything like that, all the prep that goes into it could really bum you out. You're like, man, went through all that, and you know what I mean. But when you prepare like that and you get out there and you brave the elements and you convert on a fish, and you're right, it's like in my mind no greater feeling.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
And my dad was somebody. He's like, "You're gonna do it." And I was like, and I did it.
Talk to me a little bit about. I wanted to, because this is one thing I'd noticed. I think about you, and and again, I'm gonna repeat. This is the first time we're meeting in person, but you follow people on social media, and you take a look at how they are representing themselves, and there's a lot of fish caught on your profile, a lot of striped bass on your profile too. So I'm assuming you still keep going up there.
So the last striper I ever caught was my 50-pounder.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 50.3 to be exact. But that was, I want to say, like 2 years ago. And I wanted to be the last striper I caught.
Mm-hmm.
And because my parents.
You wanted to retire on that one?
Yeah, I want to retire on that. You got to end on a good note.
Like Tom Brady?
Yeah, like that. Oh, maybe I'm going to be like, oh, you know what? I'm not ready for this. But my parents actually moved down to the Outer Banks. So they sold their home Long Island, and they're building an oceanfront property on Harker's Island in the Outer Banks.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So we kind of
Pretty
knew
out
what
there.
was going to happen. And right before the move, me and my dad went out for the fall run. Started trolling for stripers, and I caught that 50-pounder, and I was just like, I kind of want to end it on a good note, and I felt pretty good about. I don't want to say conquering the game up there with that,
Mm-hmm.
but it just felt like it was time.
Yeah, and you had already really kind of mentally transitioned down
Yeah,
here, I think,
yeah,
right? So,
yeah, and I was spending a lot of time in Florida too.
Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense that you'd say it like that,
Mhm.
So I think that's kind of cool, because one of the things I wanted to bring up, the reason I brought up, your social profile and all that, was because one thing that I kind of, like, a picture tells 1,000 words, right? That's what they always say. And just like seeing the energy on your face when you're holding these fish and everything like that, the one word that comes to my mind is passion, right? Because I can feel the passion like coming out in the photos. Talk to me a little bit about passion, because you've led an interesting life from, again, I said Harvard educated, Major League Baseball scout, avid, fisherman, and the whole thing, right? But that's a life of passion, I think. Like, and I can relate to that because I'm doing what I love too. And not everyone really gets that opportunity, that chance. I could probably speak for everyone in this room. They're doing what they love as well. Right. The road less traveled. Talk to me about how much passion plays into your daily life.
So I kind of mirror everything that I do with how Ted would have approached it, in being a perfectionist at things and putting your whole heart and soul into something. And that's something my dad always raised me to understand. It's like, if you're going to sweep the floor better than anyone else. And even if it's not the first time, keep at it until you feel like you've done a good job, like the best job ever. And I think that kind of goes with how I approach different things in life. And growing up loving baseball, growing up loving fishing, that's the two things that I want to be really good at. And inspire other people too. So I think that the passion that I have for both those things are motivated with inspiring other people to continue on and doing the same thing. It's like, if you love something, put your heart and soul into it and see what you can do with it, and don't stop. Don't take no for an answer.
Yeah, 1,000%. Yeah, that's great. You've traveled a lot for your job, and you go down onto the Dominican. One of the things I noticed about you, you a couple years ago were helping out running this program, right, to help out a lot of the poverty and everything down there.
Yep.
And I think that speaks to some of the things that you're talking about, you know what I mean? And just, not taking no for an answer and just kind of making things happen and following what you believe in.
Oh, yeah. But the Dominican Republic, a lot of people don't realize it's not, just marlin fishing and, resorts. There's a lot of poor places and people fighting for a chance just to get out of there. And then there's some places where there's no running water. And that, it's not just the Dominican Republic too. Like, I literally went to Cuba by myself. I want to say it's like 2017. I went down there to help kids and give them baseballs. Because you know what, maybe they'll do something with it, because it's like gold down there. And I remember getting stopped in security too, because they're like, "What are you doing with all these baseballs?" I'm like, "I'm giving them out to kids, But there's some kids that I walk down the street, I'm just like, wow, they live here in like this little one like box, literally. Yeah. And there was one kid playing in the garbage, that I gave him a baseball, and he was just literally crying. And I cried too. I walked away. I was like, I
oh man,
take him home. But it humbles you, and it definitely drives you to like keep pushing and helping other people for sure.
Yeah, Cuba. What was your take on, like, I know you just kind of told me a little bit about it, but like your overall take on that country right now?
So I know that people like the vintage cars and everything, and like they say, you feel like you're stuck in time, but a lot of those people, the sense that I got was that they were very oppressed. And this is how they have to live.
Yeah.
And, it's so crazy in Islamorada, where I now live, there was a Cuban refugee boat that just washed up by Bud and Mary's Marina, just floated.
Oh, really?
No motor, no nothing. I think there was still some like water canteens and stuff that was left in the boat. I know Nick did like a YouTube video on it, if you guys want to check it out and see like, more in depth. But imagine going, 90 plus miles without a motor, without, possibly risking your life just to get out of there.
Yeah, you always think that. It's like, if people want to make fun of the people on the raft, I'm like, really? Imagine what they were going through to have to make that decision.
Exactly.
To do that.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's rough. That's rough. One of the stories I always remember, because, that you're talking about going down to South America and Central America and stuff, in the islands and all that, to go scout talent for the most part, right? I always remember this story about Dave Dombrowski going down to Venezuela and sitting in Miguel Cabrera's house at the stroke of midnight on his 16th birthday with a contract like that. And like, does that kind of stuff happen a lot? Because I thought that was like the most wow story.
Yeah.
16 years old.
Yeah, no, so what's crazy is international scouting, we're scouting kids when they're about 14, 15 years old.
Right.
So way before, and you're committing these kids to X amount of money, and then they sign officially, which used to be July 2nd, but
Mm-hmm.
now I think they changed it to January 15th because of COVID. Um, so you commit these kids out, 2 or a year out, and some of them commit to millions of dollars at
Wow.
14 years old. Imagine committing to that much and then signing for that much, and then being brought over to a foreign country, not knowing the language and having to adjust to the culture.
Mm-hmm.
So that is an obstacle in itself.
It's got to be strange.
Oh, yeah. And having all the money, but not knowing how to use it, not, the fear of being taken advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely not a walk in the park for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Definitely got to be strange. Right. Right. Very strange. And that's how we segue into our strange questions. So we have here in my hand, and I do it like the Johnny Carson, the Swami, right,
Okay.
up here, right? Some strange questions, right? This is our popular segment episode, the Papa's Pilar Strange Questions, right? And I have in my hand a list of about maybe 5 or 6 questions from some people
do
that
it.
you might see the names of there. So I'm going to hide them from you a little bit. So, all right. So the picture that I posted of you earlier, right, of saying, hey, it was on Facebook, you're holding a striped bass.
Mm-hmm.
So referencing that photo, Mike Kohler says, I've never seen a snook with so many stripes. Where did you catch it?
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, so-
the stripers, though, my dad and I started striper fishing out in the North Shore and then over by Montauk and just, dropping down like live eels at night. And it was like maybe 30, 40 feet of water. And we were super successful at that. And then we started like live lining and looking for a bunker on the South Shore because he moved his boat from Greenport to Freeport. And we were okay on that. And then we started hearing people on the radio saying, oh, I just got a 40-pounder in the box on the troll. And we're like, what is trolling? Like, what is
Right.
this? So we started researching together and we're like, all right, so wire line, 300 feet out, like, let's try it. We got all the stuff. We got the Tony Maha bunker spoons, the Mojos. We had a 4-line setup. And I'm very systematic where I like that too.
Mm-hmm.
So we started being really successful at doing that and catching bigger stripers in like deeper water too, just trolling. And we would be out there when it was super rough out.
Mm-hmm.
But that is how I caught the big stripers on the South Shore when they run too, because they run from, I guess, Cape Cod all the way down to maybe like Virginia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool. See, I know nothing about striped bass fishing. I mean, I've never been up that way to fish for them. I'd love to one day for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always think it's so interesting, and also like the different cultures that surround each style of fishing, each type of fishing is always amazing to me. Like, and I always try to, like we talked about, Fly Navarro was on a show recently, and one thing that I've always wanted to do is ice fishing. And he's like, and anyone I ever say that to is like, why?
Wow.
Like, it's horrible. You're going to freeze your butt off and everything. I'm like, no, I heard those cabins are pretty warm and there's a lot of rum in there. But it's cool. All right. Thanks, Mike, for your striped snook question. The second question we have up here comes from a mutual friend in one Justin Broderick, who may or may not be presently in the room. And he says, is fishing professionally your ultimate goal, or is scouting your long-term plan?
So that's a very tough question.
It probably might not be one to answer in a public forum, but I don't
But
know.
I do love both, obviously, and I think that fishing is more of an outlet, a release for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that my boyfriend does. He's going to be doing professionally, and his sports is his outlet, so it kind of
Right.
mimics each other in a way that it works for us.
That's kind of cool, though. You know?
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
So sports
It's
is
a good
his
balance.
release, and he'll see me watch like a baseball game, and be like, "Why are you so serious?" I'm like, "You don't understand." But I would like baseball is my career. Where it's going to take me is TBD. I'd love to be an executive or an analyst on MLB Network.
Mm-hmm.
to do that and then also fish on the side and just if I'm considered a professional angler, then let it be, you know.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. Because you're already sponsor or brand ambassador for many like top level brands right now, and so you're well on your way. That's for sure. Um, I want to bring one thing up too. You talked about becoming an executive. Kim Ng, did I say
Yep.
that right?
Kim
Is
Ng, yep.
the GM now for the
Correct.
Marlins, right? And which when they announced her, I was so happy, and especially with the track record she had with Derek Jeter already, and coming in under his you know recommendation, I thought was pretty inspiring, and just I never heard of her before, but due to this, I started reading her background. I'm like, wow, she's
Yeah.
really accomplished a lot so far.
Oh yeah.
So that's gotta be, I would think, not only inspiring, but ceiling breaking and door opening for
Yeah.
people in your position as well, right? Wouldn't you
So
say?
I actually met Kim in 2013. I was at the MLB draft
Mm-hmm.
and I saw her walking out. And at that point, I kind of knew I wanted to work in baseball. And I knew everything about her, I knew what she's done, and she's been in the game for a really long time, really well respected. And it was like meeting Beyonce, you know?
Yeah.
And that was like my Beyonce because I'm like, that is somebody that I aspire to be like. Here she is. She just gave me her contact information, and we connected, and she supports other women too.
Mm-hmm.
And she's kind of seen my process and how I've gone around my internships, my jobs, and everything. And it's nice to see her persistence pay off.
Yeah.
Because she's been working in baseball, people don't realize, for more than 20 years.
Wow, that long.
Very, very long.
And she was with the Yankees too for a while, wasn't
White
she?
Sox, Yankees, Dodgers, and then Major League Baseball for a while. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up. I just thought that was really cool. So, so thank you, Justin, for your question. You are in the running for a T-shirt. It's a free T-shirt. Yeah, he's over there arm pumping. All right. So, all right. Our third question comes from another mutual friend of ours, the ever famous, popular, and member of our Connected by Water family, Michelle Bombshell Dalton, asks. She asks this, not me, right? Just for the record. If you were a man for a day, what's the first thing you would do? And also, is cereal considered breakfast soup?
If I was a man for a day,
like I said, she's asking that, not me.
Can I be any man, or is it just like a man?
Answer that how you want to answer.
I feel like I would want to be
ways.
Mark Cuban for a day.
It's a good one.
And then just like run his basketball team. Also like all his business ventures and like see what it feels like, you know?
Yep.
I don't know anything about the NBA, but I would make some moves that, people would be like, what? Leave him with the mess the next day. For sure. And is cereal considered soup?
Is cereal considered breakfast soup?
Breakfast soup.
I don't know if that's an inside joke between you guys, but
I'm gonna say yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna mark that down as a yes.
That's a yes. Confirms. Can confirm.
And we confirmed that. And I'll relay that back to Michelle for sure. Just see, I like that Michelle asked that. She's staying on point with the strange questions, right? Because so many times we ask for strange questions and people give us just like, hey, what's your favorite color? Like basic questions. And like, and I don't even answer them. Like we were put them on the show half the time. But yeah, so keeping it strange, right? So the next question comes from actually my sister, Louise DeBernard, who is living up in the Poconos right now. And she says, I've lived in both Florida and PA/New Jersey. Do you enjoy northern fishing or Florida fishing better? And then she says, go Mets.
Go Mets, yes. Definitely Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you know what? Like, I love stripers. I love fluke. I love, sea bass and bluefish, but you're limited to just that. And down in Florida, you have the bigger pelagics.
Mm-hmm.
Pelagic.
I say pelagic.
Pelagics.
Yeah.
And then you also have, like, the backcountry, all the tarpon, the triple tails, bonefish.
Yep.
snooks, red drums. So I think there's just more species to target, and there's more versatility.
I think that's the best part about Florida is that, you know, given the conditions, there's always somewhere to
Something,
target,
right?
unless you're like torrential downpour.
Oh yeah.
But then that only lasts 20 minutes around here anyway. So, but yeah, no, it's like we named the entire show after that whole theory. We're all connected by water, and the whole like we're connected by water, and the state itself is connected by water, and just the people are the land, and the land are the people.
That's
So
right.
that's kind of like the whole theory behind it. And like you can literally go double up on sailfish, come inshore, catch tarpon and the snook, go 2 more miles inland and catch a bass.
That's
Like
right.
all in the same day, very easily. And well, not very easily, but it's possible.
Or if you're in Michelle's
Very easily.
backyard.
Right, exactly. You go to Michelle's backyard. Michelle will just go home, catch some peacocks. You're all set. Hey, you got the peacock fishing.
I did.
Right.
So that's my first freshwater fish ever. Michelle put me on.
Yeah,
In her
really?
backyard. It was so fun. Yes.
Yeah,
First
that's awesome.
freshwater fish ever.
Yeah, every time I talk to her, I'm like, all right, so we're going to go catch some peacocks in your backyard. She's like, yeah, come over. Not today, though, because I got this other thing going on. I'm like, all right, well, let me know when. So, anyway, yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Louise. We'll be sure to say, let's go Mets.
Hmm.
Relay that to your dad. That's got to be cool, though, like growing up fishing with your dad like that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Right?
And now that he's moved to the Outer Banks, we have like a new we want to nail the bluefin tuna. Like that's gonna be our next goal.
Yeah, yeah. They got some, they've been going back and forth with some mahi regulation out there recently. We're trying to change some coastal laws. Is there any updates on that? Do you know? Yeah, where they're trying to regulate, and they're trying to regulate here too. I know that's kind of a fluid situation, but yuck. But they're up there too, and I'm not sure what it is because right now I don't think they like have limits for them. But I don't know. But I know the beach fishing up there is big
Oh
in the
yeah.
Outer Banks too.
Oh yeah.
The
Red
big long
drum.
surf rods.
Oh yeah. I think the one of the world records red drum was caught surf casting out there.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Hmm.
All right. So the next question comes from a Jason Cooper Smith. It's a very good friend of mine. He says, "How do you find time to juggle all of your career responsibilities and still find time to fish?"
You know what? I've been very fortunate that the Pirates, when they hired me, they knew that I loved fishing, and with COVID, I've had a lot more free time, so that's
Mm-hmm.
why you probably see me post more than often. But they kind of knew that fishing was important to me, so they were like, "Oh, you want to go to Alaska for a week? Okay, with your dad, go ahead. You want to go sword fishing for a day or two? Go ahead." Um, so it's just more of like communication and
Mm-hmm.
letting them know what days I can do things. But I work a lot, like in the morning, night, like I'm always available.
Yeah.
You find time.
There's a kind of like a thing where like you always got like like a talent like on your mind that you're trying to like there's always going to be like
Oh yeah.
right. It's like
Oh
not
yeah.
incessant, isn't it?
Yeah. So how it works is like there's a lot of showcases and like trainers that have these kids that they want to show you. Like we have this 14-year-old shortstop. Um, and you want to come look at him, and we're gonna showcase him these days. Um, and then you kind of just have him on your target list and say, all right, this is the price range that I feel comfortable signing him at. And of course, it never matches up with what
Right.
their asking prices. But you kind of just keep them on the back of your mind until it fits.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't officially sign until they're 16. So there's just so much time after you look and watch the progress. And
Mm-hmm.
there's time though. People don't realize it. Just you see him, you sign him, and that's it. Like there's time through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's cool. Sorry, I know I'm asking a lot of questions
No,
about that.
you're
I'm
good.
just so fascinated about that world. The whole thing. Being like I grew up a huge baseball fan. I grew up playing baseball my whole life, and I'm just so enamored by that whole entire process because baseball is unlike any other sport in that respect, where it's just like, a lot of the guys they go to college and then they go to MLB, but that's not usually the traditional path for Major League Baseball,
No.
which I've always found that very interesting.
Yeah, and then you got guys at high school. They
Yeah.
get drafted in top rounds that you're like, oh, I don't need college,
Right,
or I can
right.
get it later.
Yep. Yep.
So that's kind of a big thing too. But people don't realize the international side of it. They see the amateur draft and
Mhm.
how that works with high school, colleges, and the process through that. But the kids internationally are signed so much younger, play in the Dominican Summer League for like one season, then come up here, and
Mm-hmm.
then they're like, "Oh, that kid, I'll take notes on him."
Yeah.
But we've done our homework years before.
Yeah, that's cool. I know I went through a little bit of the process of the kid that goes to high school, goes to college, and then gets signed right after that because I'm very good friends with Zach Collins' uncle, right? So I was there for every step of the way of like, oh, he's doing this, and he's telling me all the time
Yep.
about his entire process. And I guess he was a very good prospect coming up, and now he's obviously, fighting for that starting job at this point,
Yeah.
in his career. But he's been doing very well as a power hitter.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I always thought that he'd get elevated a little bit quicker for the power hitting catcher, but not my call.
But the one thing too is that people don't realize that once you're signed, it's not just like, okay, you'll get to the big leagues in a year. It's like
Right.
you have to go through the whole minor league
The rigors,
process.
yeah.
You're competing with other people. Like if you were drafted in the amateur draft, you're competing with the international guys and sign-ons and trades,
Mm-hmm.
and vice versa with the international guys. So it's very, very competitive.
Yeah.
Just because you get signed doesn't mean it's going to happen.
You worked with the A's for a little bit, didn't you?
I did. I worked with the
I thought I read
A's.
that.
Yeah, player development for like a couple months.
Yeah. So I mean, the Billy Ball thing.
Billy Bean?
Yeah.
Moneyball.
Yeah, Moneyball. Billy Ball. Moneyball.
That's the same thing.
So I mean, is how much of that that film is accurate?
I want to say it is pretty accurate. I met Billy Bean a couple times, and he's super humble.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they're striving away from that
Mm-hmm.
theory because analytics, everybody's got it. Data is important, and it
Right.
can only tell you so much. And I do think there's a big correlation with performance numbers and the tools that they have, right? But I think that more and more teams are moving away from that theory and focusing more on the biomechanical part of it,
Right.
which is becoming bigger and bigger,
Mm-hmm.
and the eyesight and all of that.
Yeah.
But there's new testing every single year: psychological testing, physical testing. There's something called
Poking, prodding,
ISAC too that
yeah.
can there's something called ISAC that can measure your body composition, project how big and how strong you could possibly be at a certain age,
What?
Yeah, so there's just so much more science and tools that people are going to be using
Yeah.
for scouting. But the analytics, I think, is like a correlation, so it lines up.
Mhm.
But there's you want to dig deeper than just that surface level.
Yeah. So at that point, I'd rest my laurels and just focusing on fishing. So, all right. So the last question on our list comes from our good friend Josh Sandor. And Josh is a United States Army veteran and a FFO outreach officer for Freedom Fighter Outdoors locally here. But he's not local, but the organization is, and he's always here. And he asks a really cool question, I think, because getting off the beaten path a little bit. So what is the weirdest / craziest thing you did while attending Harvard, and did you get caught?
So I actually completed my certification at Harvard online. So, what's so funny though? I did it, and I didn't really tell anyone I was doing it except for my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of my coworkers saw that I had the diploma thing, and they're like, "Oh, you're done with it?" I was like, "Yeah." So I guess that was kind of
Yeah, whatever. Did the
cool,
Harvard
yeah.
thing.
So I tried to play it like that too. I was like, "Yeah, that happened. I did it." They're like, "You did it that fast?" I'm like, "Yeah." How did you do it when you had to work? I go, "Just did it. That's it." Find time.
Sharp. I like it. All right, that's the last of our questions. So we have to pick a winner. You have to pick a winner.
Michelle.
Michelle? All right. Michelle gets.
The
Michelle already
cereal
gets free
suit.
T-shirts, but she'll get another one. All right, cool. Sorry, Justin. He already gets free T-shirts too. So, all right, winner, chicken dinner, bombshell. All right, awesome. So we got our questions done. That's really, really great. Tell me a little bit about Islamorada. Right?
Okay.
And I know the one big reason why you're there, right? But, that's got to be accompanied with other reasons,
Yeah,
right?
no. When I first went down there, it was last year when we were fishing with me and my dad came down for a swordfish trip with, the Nick Stanzik.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say it that way, the Nick Stanzik.
Correct.
And we went sword fishing, and I was like, this is so beautiful. The water is just clear. It was my first time in the Keys ever. And it just looked like something out of like a beautiful painting, you
It
know?
is.
And I liked that everything was kind of laid back. I would say that there's a lot of pressure in my profession because there's not a lot of women that do it,
Hmm.
and there's a lot of like things that I constantly have to battle with that you just kind of have to get over, you know.
Like what?
Just like being accepted when you're going to scouting events and people are looking at you like, "What are you doing here?" kind of thing. So it's like little
You get
things
that a
like that.
lot?
Oh yeah,
Really?
yeah. And it is there's just a lot of attention with it too,
Hmm.
you know. And you just try to not to pay any mind to it. But it does like you feel it the back of your mind, you
Hmm.
know. So coming down and fishing is like my outlet, my release of just forgetting about all that.
Yeah.
And so that was my first time in the Keys though when we went sword fishing with Nick Stanzik out of Bud and Mary's.
Hmm.
And that was the same day that I met my boyfriend. They call him the Bean. His real name is Brandon Storin, and we caught a big eye tuna with Nick. We went sword
Oh,
fishing, but caught a big eye tuna,
nice.
which is the second one he's ever caught.
Yeah,
And there's a YouTube video about it too.
that's not the common tuna down there.
No,
Yeah.
but I remember like I think it was like 117 pounds. It was on the fillet table, and then Brandon walks by and he's just like looks at the tuna, looks at me, and he's just like nice tuna and walks away. And I was like, you know what, that's nice. Like he actually like complimented
Hmm.
the fish. Like that's awesome.
Hmm.
And you know, I kind of knew who he was, and he wasn't our mate. We had somebody else because he was backcountry fishing at the time. So we just kind of followed each other, and he posted a lot of fishing, like very fishing focused content, and that was what kind of intrigued me. Like he was very into it. And then I was down here a couple months after, like trying to work on my tarpon game because I went tarpon fishing up in St. Pete,
Hmm.
and it took me forever to fight this like 60-pound tarpon. And I was like, what am I doing wrong? This is like the hardest fight of my life. So I wanted to work on it. So I came down here and I was fishing with somebody else, and um, you know, I was like, yeah, I have some time if you want to grab some dinner. And he's like, okay. So he was just done with the charter, and you know, we had dinner together, and I
So
just
you
felt
asked
so
him to
comfortable.
dinner.
I did. I was like, you know, I'm gonna
Did
be
you
down there
did you ask
already.
him out, or did you ask him
I
you were
just,
trying to get tips on tarpon fishing from him?
you know what? That could have been like the hidden thing, but I
Because
just
I got a story. This is how I met my wife. Okay,
really.
listen. Yeah, because well, I met her before through some friends at like the old job. This is a long time ago, and my wife and I have been together 15, 16 years, right? But she calls me out of the blue one day, and she's an artist as well, as I told you about, right? So she does like the abstract, coastal, minimal things, completely different spectrum of art than what I paint fish as real as they can look, right? So, or I try to, but um, so she calls me out of the blue. She's like, "Hey, I have these canvases that I'm not going to use. Do you want to buy them?" Right? And I'm like, "Oh, hey, yeah, I'll buy those canvases." Right? She's like, "Okay, they're like $40. Is that cool?" I'm like, "Yeah, no problem." I'm like, she's like, when can you come by? Right? Whatever. So we picked a day, and I go over there, and I'm like, yeah. She's like, all right. So you want to see the canvases? I'm like, oh yeah, sure. No problem. Yeah, we can see the canvases, right? And everything like that. I'm like, what are you doing now? You want to like hang out? And then that was it. I remember that was September 10th, 2005. So yeah,
Oh.
because I got a parking ticket that night
Okay.
at the beach. That's how I remember it. That's how I remember it. Yep.
Oh, that's
So the
funny.
rest is history. So
Oh God. Well, this
the,
was July 25th.
those canvases are still in our garage, unpainted.
Oh,
Yeah. So
I
that
love
that's
that.
it. So
I
I
do
never
love
wanted
that.
canvases. That was just my excuse to get in the door.
That was your in.
That was my in. So he saw his in, right? You wanted to talk to him about tarpon, and he was like, yeah, whatever, tarpon.
No, but it was just so we had dinner, and it was July 25th, and I just felt super comfortable. That
Hmm.
was it. And he wasn't trying to be anyone else. He's like, this is me. I like fishing. I work here. This is what I do. And it was just refreshing, you know, that he was just honest, and he has such a pure heart. And I think that is what I love the most about him.
Hmm.
So we just kind of hit it off, and I was constantly, and I was still living at Bradenton working for the Pirates, like, because that's where, you know, I wanted to be close to the facility. Um, and I found myself driving to Islamorada like almost every week just to hang out and like, see him. Um, and he's come up a couple times too, and he's like, "What are we gonna do in Bradenton?" I was like, "Nothing really, but
Right, right, yeah. You want to go to Tampa? I don't know.
um, but then we've been dating for a couple months now,
Hmm.
and I kind of I want to build a life with him, I guess is the best way to
Hmm.
put it. So I'm like, I can work remotely, and I have to travel, which is only like an hour and 20 minutes from the Miami airport.
Right.
So let's just full send Islamorada, let's go.
Hmm.
So we're still in the process of moving, but we did find a nice spot, and he's going to be a charter captain um, at a Bud and Mary's doing backcountry stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's actually put me on a bunch of my first fish too, like bonefish and triple tail, snook, like everything. And
Do you know Charles Hertel?
I do.
So Charles, so it's a Keezy Charter. So
Yeah.
they're part of the Connect by Water
Yeah,
family
yeah.
too. A very good friend of ours too. Yeah.
Mhm.
So we just recently brought my wife and the kids down. We just fished with Charles like during like quarantine lockdown when everyone
Yeah.
was still like, you know what I mean? I'm like, Charles, I gotta get out of here. I gotta get everybody out of the house. Like we're gonna drive down there. You're gonna take us fishing.
Yeah,
So,
no, he's pretty cool. But they'll both be guides,
yeah,
so it'll be
yeah,
cool.
yeah. That's awesome. So he's starting that full-time backcountry gig
Soon,
now.
yeah, he did. Apparently, it's a whole big process getting your captain's license, but he's passed like all the tests, all the medical certifications, and everything. It just has to wait for it to come in the mail, which should be any day.
Yeah, nice.
So I'm
It's
super
exciting.
proud of him. I think that he's very very skilled. He's one of the most skilled fishermen I've ever
Mhm.
met. The finesse and everything, and knowing what structures to look for too. Like the other day, he like was like, "Oh, we're going scouting. Like, let's go." I'm
Mhm.
like, "Scouting? Like, okay,
Yeah.
like we're scouting for
I can
fishing.
scout.
Okay,
I can
I can
scout."
scout a little bit." But he was just very like, "Oh, this structure looks good. We're gonna try this." And he did. I was so proud of him. Like he saw a plan, executed, tried it out, experimented, and it was super successful.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And what's the name of his charter?
He doesn't know yet.
He doesn't know?
No, he's trying to figure it out because there's a lot of like there's so many possibilities with the bean.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
it could be bean charters, but ice fishing. So I
Mhm.
don't know if you've seen his Instagram, but he loves fishing with an ice fishing rod for like big like big fish.
Really?
Yeah, he loves it. Like super light tackle, super light pole, everything. Monster red drums.
Really?
Yeah. So he's actually having he's got a custom, he calls it the bean pole that's
Mhm.
coming out soon. So look out for that
The
because
bean
that's going to be
pole.
pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
But it's
nice.
so much fun. It really is.
Yeah, very cool.
You catch like a 7-pound mang and it's just like, oh my God, on this
Mhm.
ice fishing rod. It feels like you're fighting biggest thing ever.
That's cool. When you first came in and told me that you made the move down there, you guys were doing all that. I was happy for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I'm excited.
Islamorada is such a great place. The
It
Keys in
really
general.
is.
I always call the Keys the jewel of Florida.
Oh.
It really is. I mean, it's like you get down there, and John and I were just talking about this last week because he called me. We had a phone conversation. I'm like, "Hey, where are you?" He's like, "Oh, I'm on the 28-mile stretch." Right? And I'm like, "Oh yeah, your mood just changed,
Yeah,
didn't it?"
that's where
Because
it
it does.
changes.
It's like you go through this vortex transition. Like anytime you're there, and like it's
You
like
see those
you
blue
leave the
walls.
entire country behind. You know, and you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, we're down here now."
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
everything changes. So it's pretty cool. So I wanted to ask you, too, like you meet some pretty interesting people in this bubble, right? And as you navigate this world of industry, brands, brand ambassadors, marketing, and many times the actual fishing can take a back seat, to all that. So what so far surprised you the most? Like being, because you're with Okuma and ACR and Yeti and like a few other brands and everything
Mhm.
like that. There's obligations to all those things as well. But you meet some good people, you meet some not so good people along the way. What has like surprised you the most, positively or negatively, maybe about someone else or even yourself?
I think that it definitely puts a lot of not pressure, but the issue I think comes to when other people use different things, and it's just like no, like every single brand that I am behind, I truly believe in.
Mhm.
Like ACR.
It's very important.
No, I was showing Justin with ACR. Like, there's a video of somebody almost losing their life because it was like late at night, and they were trying to pull this cooler, and the handle popped off, and he fell in the water. They couldn't find him for at least 24 hours. And people don't realize how big the ocean is, and like it's not just easy to like locate somebody. You know, it's like a pin in like a whole needle stack. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
So it's like things like that that you have for security that is super crucial, and that is something that I like about ACR and like Akuma. I believe everything that they have, like their rods and reels, tested, true. We put them to work. Trust me. Like even the ice fishing rods that they have, we put them to work. So every single brand that I stand behind, I not only rely on, but I stand behind because they're good quality products.
Yeah.
And even with the June Shine, like it's a healthy alcoholic beverage. At the end of the day, it's like that is something that's important to me, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I always hear, or whenever you hear that story about, oh, lost at sea, and there we got the helicopters out, and we need your help and everything like that. I always just kind of shake my head.
Yeah.
And because you got to think there's only you guys may have some stat on that, but it can't be a very large number of whether or not they're going to find that person.
And it's as simple as it's going to the ACR website and getting the personal beacon thing and
Right.
leaving it on. Like it's a safety thing that you never know what could happen.
Yeah, no, it's true. And then you hear the stories of the positive ones where they do find them, and you think, man, if they didn't have that, that would have been it. That would have been the end of it. So it's a very important company, ACR. I just want to give them a shout out because McKelly's such a nice guy, and he's got that operation pretty dialed in, and it's such a great product, and it's a company run by such great people as well. So yeah, that's cool. I just wanted to make sure that we got to mention them. Do you remember much from living in Peru? Probably not. You were so young, huh?
No, but I actually went back there by myself a couple years ago to see Machu Picchu.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Oh, I'm dying to go there.
Yes, and my aunt was
That's a
going to
bucket
come
list
with
place for me,
Oh,
for sure.
Honestly, it is one of the most beautiful sights you'll ever see.
Really?
Yep, and it's also, I think, like something that you should enjoy with someone else. Like if you bring your wife, like she would truly appreciate that. And that's something that I want to go back with Brandon eventually. But just the culture, the way of living, and all of the history behind Machu Picchu is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And then going to the actual Machu Picchu mountain is just gorgeous.
I hear it's kind of a pain to get up there.
So there's actually like a bus. I call it the death bus because it's literally like you have two giant buses going on this very narrow spiral like up the mountain, both ways, and then like you don't know if somebody can just a different bus can push you over the edge, and that's it. But you take the bus
You're
up
like looking
there,
down a cliff?
literally, like there's no guardrails either.
Yeah, no. I remember one time when I was a little kid, we were in St. Thomas with my parents, and I guess they drive on the left side of the road, like London, England kind of thing. And so my dad got a rental car to go around the island and everything, and he was driving in the right lane, like he was in the United States of America, because he thought we're in the U.S. territory, so everyone's on the right side, right? But still, like they go by British rule or whatever down there in the islands. And so yeah, we almost like it was at one of those roads coming around the mountain and the cliff, and we were on the wrong side, and like we almost like we might not have had a podcast today.
Oh, if you go to Machu Picchu, you'll take that bus and you'll be like, "That's what she was talking about."
Yeah,
this is the death bus.
Death bus.
And they have a giant sign that says like, "We are not responsible with what happens to you on this bus."
No, really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Different strokes for different folks, I guess.
Yes, but once you survive that and you get up there, and it's a beautiful hike too, and you want to get there super early, but when you get to the top, it is the most beautiful sight you will ever see. Very majestic, I think, is the best way to describe it.
Yeah, and you've been to Alaska too.
I have.
That's another place I've been dying to go. I've never been.
So me and my dad were like, you know what? That looks kind of fun. We catch fluke here. These look like monster flukes. Let's give it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
So we stayed at this place called Miller's Landing, and they have not only like places to stay and like yurts and stuff, all
Where
that
is that?
crafty. In Seaward.
Okay.
So it's about 2 hours, a 2 hour drive from Anchorage. And it's a long flight. Like he was traveling from New York and I was traveling from Tampa. And we met at Seattle. And then it's another like couple hours flight to Alaska into Anchorage. But the craziest part about it, we were tired at the end of the day. And we had to drive another 2 hours. And I was afraid, I'm like, oh no, it's going to get dark.
Mm-hmm.
It never got dark.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Is it? They really still have that no light thing?
Oh, it is crazy.
I thought that was only when you go like
Oh.
way up high.
No, there's only like 45 minutes of like nighttime, like maybe kind of sunset dark, but it was light the whole day.
Oh wow.
So I was like, okay, let's drive. Let's take our time.
Well, we might have to transition into strange questions again. So, all right. Did you see the Northern Lights?
We did not. I think it was a different time of year. I think it's like December, like later in the year that you see those.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I know nothing about that.
And you don't want to be in Alaska when it's like November, December.
Yeah, I'd imagine not.
Oh no.
No, I have a tough enough time with the cold front that we just had here a couple weeks ago.
But they have
when it got down to the 60s.
They have like a huge rock with like a weather satellite thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it's got to be maybe like 60 feet high, like super big. And they said that always gets knocked down in the winter months because that's how high the waves get. Yeah. I was just like, no. He's like, no, seriously.
Really?
Yeah.
You know, all right. So I'm a Florida native, right? And it shows in every part of my life because, like, I cannot deal with the cold. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, even out here, like, you know, if we're out going out for like a sailfish run in like the winter and you get like a snap and it gets down like the 40s in the morning and you're running out and I'm just like, please, sun, come up, come out. You know what I mean? I just don't do well with it at all. I don't know. Like my wife's from New Jersey and we'll go up there like for Christmas, like every other year or whatever like that. And it's just gets dark early and it's rainy. I mean, you know, you used to live there. And I'm like, why would people choose to live here? I would always say that. I'm like, can we go home now? Like
It gets too cold. Oh yeah.
I don't know.
We actually went up to North Carolina the other day, maybe like a week ago, to visit my parents and see the house. And it was 24 degrees when we woke up.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so funny because Brandon was like, Alexa, what's the weather? And she's like, it's 24 degrees outside. He's like, Alexa, shut your mouth. Oh, but yeah, it was really cold. And I got soft living in Florida for a couple years. It happens.
It gets you soft.
Yeah.
Yeah. Justin's
okay,
real
though.
soft. Justin's soft. John's not soft, though. I can't talk bad about John. He'll crush me with one.
No, I won't.
fist. So of all those places that you've ever fished, like Islamorada's your favorite, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the company too. I mean, getting to fish with Nick, with Richard, with Ricky, all the Stanzics, Brandon. He's taught me a lot too. And the one thing I love about how he treats me is like he holds me accountable of like tying all of my own things.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, you're gonna learn bimini, you're gonna learn the FG, you're gonna learn double uni, a uni, and you're gonna learn how long your leader has to be, why we're using mono versus fluoro, like.
Mm-hmm.
So he like teaches me, and I love that part of it. He's like he lets me do it too, you know.
Yeah.
You're gonna sight cast for the triple tail, and if you miss, it's okay, you know. But I like that part of that.
Sure.
Know? It's important.
Yeah, I think it's real important. And one of the things that always attracted me to you was that you're really a fisher woman. I don't never know what the hell that term is. Woman,
Fishing angler?
fisher, angler, fisherman. I just call you a fisherman.
I like
right?
it.
So that's fine with me. But is you're not just like a grip and grin, you know what I mean? Boyfriend catches a fish in a bikini, holding it up, kind of thing like that. So, and I think that's important as well, especially to the show, you know, and what we try to the message that we try to portray about community and about protecting our coastlines and being a responsible steward out there, not just a party animal on the water, and just understanding that you are tapping into a precious, very precious natural resource,
Right.
especially down in the Keys, that needs to be protected and needs to be taken seriously. And one way to do that is to take that seriousness through every aspect of your sport, to become a good steward, not only to the people and the culture around it, but actually to the fish as well. So, and I see that that's your guys' MO there, which is really cool and it's really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, do you take much stock in making yourself aware with some of the local clean water issues and
I know that there's that clean captains
the
for clean
captains for
water.
clean water? Yep.
That he's told me about that, and I was actually fishing out of Biscayne Bay,
Mm-hmm.
and
That
just
needs a lot
watch.
of help.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
As just watching, like seeing all the mangroves with all the trash and everything, I was
Yeah.
just like, how is it this bad? You
Yep.
know.
Yep.
So I do notice that, and it definitely needs to change. And
Yeah.
hopefully, the political moves that just happened will steer that
Mm-hmm.
and devote itself to helping that cause.
Yeah. I think a lot of that, whether it's government driven or not, rests a lot in the actions of the people and just like the local community getting together and raising awareness amongst themselves. Um, I think that has more to do with it than anything. I think the government's going to step in because so much of it is just symbolism.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And just we're going to say this or we're going to do this because that's what's going to get us votes.
that's true.
And whether or not they really care about it, is another story. And I think people need to be, on top of that in their heads and understand that clearly.
Yeah,
Like just because you voted a certain way, or maybe your guy won, maybe your guy didn't win, right? At the end of the day, you guys still need to rally together as a community and do it yourselves.
correct.
It's the only way it's going to happen, right? So, and I know down in the Keys, especially, it's such a fragile ecosystem.
Oh yeah, and even in the Dominican Republic, you walk around and you're just like, what is this? You
Yeah,
know?
you
Um,
notice a lot of trash and
oh
like
yeah,
it's a lot worse than here,
it's
I'm sure.
a lot worse.
Yeah.
A lot worse. And there's no like real regulation that really wants to cater to that at the moment.
Yeah.
This is a cause for concern. You know.
Yeah, I think so, definitely. And the islands in general. Now, I know like where your dad is in the Caymans, right? It's kind of a little bit more
Oh
regulated.
yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah,
more like here.
It's heavily regulated
Yeah.
down there. More of the less fortunate islands down there, because there is a lot of money that goes through the Cayman Islands, so they have the resources to be able to, make those regulations
Right.
and back them. Whereas some of these other islands down there, they just don't, they can't
Yeah.
do it.
Especially those independent nations.
Right.
You
Yeah.
get like Haiti and the Dominican like
Right.
right next to each other. They're kind of like on their own.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? But if you get like, St. John's and the U.S. territories and, the British Virgin Islands, probably a little different story. But, but there's even still some of those islands that don't get, you know what I mean? I think, yeah. So I think that's important to recognize that as well. Yeah. So please, if you guys are out there and, we always try to make that a point to mention it on the shows too, because it's really something that we care a lot about around here. So, yeah. So cool. I wanted to ask you before we kind of sign off here, where do you kind of see yourself going with fishing? I know we kind of touched on, whether it's fishing or whether it's baseball and everything like that, but tell me about, how much fishing has meant to your life, like in your heart. Like I want to kind of get beneath the surface a little bit as to like what it really, really means to you. I know it's a kind of a broad, tough question to ask, but I think it's an important one.
I think that it really helped bond me and my dad. I call him my dad. And helped bond like our relationship at such an early age, and still to this day, like he's motivated to complete the house. He literally relocated so we can catch bluefin tuna.
Wow.
And he's excited about all the different species that he'll be able to fish down in the Outer Banks versus being up in New York. But just helping build that relationship with him, the patience that fishing teaches you too.
Mm-hmm.
That's super important to me, and the outlet that it helps me with. My career is a lot of pressure, like I said earlier, but this is my release, my outlet. It's going out there and just forgetting about everything, all the
Mm-hmm.
negative feelings. And now being serious with Brandon, seeing where our relationship will go and bonding with him through fishing also. So I think it's helped structured a lot of the really important relationships in my life,
Mm-hmm.
and also helped me create a very positive or keep a positive mindset. Um, but fishing always will have a passion for where do I see myself in the next couple of years. Hopefully catching big bluefin tuna with not only Brandon up there, but with my dad continually.
Yeah.
And also seeing, Brandon and his business blossom. And he said already he's going to make sure that at least once a week we go together and go fishing,
Yeah.
because he knows I love it that much.
Yep.
And I think it's important.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the perfect answer to that question, because I think it really proves the point that it's more than just, putting a hook in a fish's mouth, at the end of the day. And there's so much more that goes into it. And there's so much more that goes into building a life around fishing and building a career around fishing, and, the community that engulfs it all, and that really is, I think, what pushes everyone forward into saying, yeah, we can really, collectively just kind of make all this happen. You know what I mean? Life doesn't have to be such a box all the time. You know what I mean? And fishing gets you there.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's it's one of the reasons why I've made it my lifelong passion to paint it. So I mean, for sure, and that's what makes us all connected by water. At the end of the day, yeah, that's cool, very cool. I want to thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this has been outstanding. It's been nice getting to know you here. I love when it doesn't happen all the time where I get to actually meet someone for the first time on the show, right? Which I always think is a really cool thing, because sometimes those first conversations are like the best ones. So, and I think this one was today as well. So, thank you for driving up here. Thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And you want to give a quick shout out for people who follow you? What's your social there?
It's actually catching_Astrid right now.
Okay, catching_Astrid. Follow her on Instagram. And it's a really cool profile to follow, so for sure. So all right, I'm gonna grab some food here in a minute. So all right, I want to remind everyone before we go, right, that if you're in the market for a truck or vehicle or a Jeep, right, go over to the Joey Cardi Chrysler Jeep Ram, right. They will hook you up with an excellent vehicle, right. Go over see my buddy Dean, right, and tell him I sent you. I can't promise anything, but I think you're going to get a better deal than most people would if you said Dennis sent you, right? And if you're hungry, I want you to head over to Papa's Raw Bar, right, and get something off the Connected by Water inspired sushi menu, right? So that is the Connected by Water sushi menu is at Papa's Raw Bar. And also check out Papa Migos, the food truck down here, right down the street. Harris stopped by and saw them last week and brought some food in, and it was incredible.
Yeah.
They got the taquizi taco thing.
Yep. I tried that taco the other day.
It's good.
After I left here. Yeah.
Oh.
Now I'm closer here because I live out in Plantation. It's a drive, so whenever I come here, I always stop there on the way back. It's right off the highway.
Yeah, awesome. We can get that.
We might have to.
All right. Let's go have some lunch then. And then our good friends at Papa's Pilar Rum remind you to never be a spectator. Okay, I know we drank the kombucha and I mixed it with a little rum today, but truly, it's the best rum out there, and I love being a part of the Papa's Pilar family. So, give it a shot today. No pun intended. So, all right, cool. Your ego is not your amigo. Right? Always do your best, just let God do the rest. Right? No matter where we are, no matter what we're doing, we're always connected by water. Thank you, Astrid DeGruchy.